So before we even start, your nephew, your godson,
Uh-huh.
this kid, I told him today that I was gonna be talking to you. And he's like, what do you mean Theo Martin's gonna be there?
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, because he's a rapper and he like, and he does his music. I said, I've shown you his music before. And he goes, you know what I can do, mom? And I said, what? And he does like his little version of beatboxing.
Mhm.
And he says, wait, he says, do you think Theo Martin could put me on his thing? I was dying laughing. I was like,
And I love that stuff though. I
I was
love
like, you
stuff
know
like
what,
that.
babe? You keep on working on it. And the next time you see Theo Martin, you bring it up to him yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we could always find something. Like, yo, my nephew, that's how my nephew does a lot of my production because he was like, yo, he'll send me like beats. And in the beginning, obviously, like everybody is learning, and he would send me beats and I could hear like where he was going with things. When they're like creative like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
you kind of get, especially if this is just your thing, you can hear like, oh, I see what you're trying to do.
yeah.
And Trey is really into like beat making right now, so he be doing some things and I'm just like, yo, that's actually really crazy. I can't believe you put that together. So my nephew, he got to like a point where he became like a master, like out of nowhere, like so fast. Like he one day I just remember he was sending me stuff and it sounded like, like he just started. And then like 6 months later, it was like this dude is like a master.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe he would send me beats sometimes and I'm like crying, like, oh my God, I can't believe he is this great. Um and now
I
he
think it's
does.
it's a bloodline thing too. People don't realize how a lot of this right brain stuff that we do is
Yeah,
seriously genetic.
yeah.
Because I was always musical. I always used to sing. That was always my dream.
Mm-hmm.
I got
Yeah.
older now. My voice is very different, but it used to be something that I used to do.
Yeah.
And in our family, that's something we do. So I always look at my son too the same way, which, or by the way, Trey, doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
because that comes from a lot along lines of that
Yeah.
artistry, right? And it's about finding it and honing it because like I said, with my son, he's very right brained. He's all about music. He can hear. He'll tell mommy, I hear lyrics in my head,
Mm.
and I'm like, I used to be the same way.
Yeah.
Writing, and I'd like put it down, just write it on a notebook, whatever. And it
Right.
doesn't matter if it makes sense, like just do it. And it's something. So he's very musical. He's very old soul. So like, he loves all kinds of music and stuff. And he made me laugh with that because I was like, you know what? And with his YouTube and stuff, he'll come out and he probably listen to the song because he's little.
Mm-hmm.
He will hear a song. And he's like, oh, he'll listen to it. He digests the words. He loves old school rap. My
Wow.
son will sit there listening to Wu Tang with me. He
Mm.
can sit there and tell me, "Oh, that's LL Cool J or that's RZA." Like my son is, it blows my mind because he really listens. He loves himself some Eminem,
Yeah.
and he's like, I'm like, always like, you do know he's telling stories, right?
Yeah.
So we don't
Yeah.
want to mistake actions for stories, right?
Right.
But he's like, yeah, mine, but he'll listen, and like, so it's that. So I said to him, I said, you know what? I said, next time you see your Theo Martin, you talk to him about that, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So I thought
Of
that was really cute.
course. Nah,
I thought that
that's
was really cute.
beautiful. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad that he thought of me with that. I love that. Like, and I just I think it's important that we leave the floor open for our kids to be creative,
Hell yeah.
because I think being like I grew up in the Bronx, but eventually I ended up having to go to school in Pennsylvania. I moved with my dad into Pennsylvania, went to high school in Pennsylvania. So I got to see like, oh, this is what like this is how it's so different
Hmm.
from like our way of thinking in New York, in a place where it's really diverse.
That's right. It's cultural, multicultural. That's
But
right.
what I learned is like the problems are like it it may be different problems, but it's problems here, it's problems there.
Hmm.
And when I moved to Pennsylvania, like I just got like this, okay, I see like I don't know how to explain it exactly, but when I moved to Pennsylvania, I realized, I think at a very young age, like, all right, I can see like we're not so different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whether like between our people, between suburban folk, it's not really much differences. It's just different problems, and like your problems is not too small. Like it's all good, And I think when you see both layers and things like that, like with my son, like he lives out here, I lived out there, so like I watch him and I'm like, what you be what you be thinking about? Like what's in your mind? As because me and Lisette talk about like I'm kind of going all over the place to prove a point, but like me and Lisette, we talk a lot about like, yo, all right, now we kind of at a stage where like we want our son to know what he wants to do with his future.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But then I think about it. That's where I was getting at. Is like when I lived in Pennsylvania, the whole thing was like I can see a really big push for school, which is understandable. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But then I think it's also important to like really observe your kids, and because sometimes you might see like, oh my God, maybe they were meant for something more, like something
Oh
different
yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah.
involve like having to go to school, which I still think school is necessary. But I also like for me as a kid, um, when I was almost at the point of finishing high school, I seen like it was weird out there for people like, oh, you're not going to college?
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes you feel like
Yeah.
alienated.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, you're not going to college, and now you feel like, oh, this is something I have to do. I have to go to college.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But then you don't even, but then you're kind of putting on the back burner what you really want to do with your
That's
life,
what happened to me.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think like for my son, I leave the floor open. Like I still say, yo, you have to go to school because obviously you need that. You need that
Mm-hmm.
discipline and everything. You need to learn.
Basics.
Um,
Just the basics. You need
yeah.
the basics. That's right.
But I also observe, and my wife does an amazing job at it too. We sit there, we observe, and we're like, do you like beat making? Is that your thing? Like, do you feel like this is like do you love it when you do it? Are you always thinking about it? We ask questions like that, and I think that that's super important.
Yeah.
Sorry to be long-winded, but
Nah, but I feel the same way, right? When I was younger, that was a push. College was a push. Where are you going to go to college? I
mm-hmm,
had so many dreams before that. I was always in chorus. I was
mm-hmm,
always, Gina could tell you, my friends, because we were in singing groups. I used to go on auditions. I used to do all those kinds of things. And then I did it even when I was in college.
yeah,
And then as I got older and you start to work more and you start to realize that I got to be in this hustle where I'm not making no money, I'm just hustling
right,
versus I got bills to pay. I got to do certain things to get there, right? In my life.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes you make those decisions based on what's right there in front of you at the moment, right?
right,
And then you look back sometimes and you go, I don't know if I made the right decision or not, because at some point you're like, you know what, I always could follow my dreams. But if you're able to hone something that your kid is good at
mm-hmm,
and support them in the right way, Nico talks about I want to be a YouTuber and a YouTuber. And a couple years ago, I might have been like, "You've lost your damn mind. Like you're
mm-hmm,
going to school. Like not that he's not going to go to school, but
yeah,
you need to do better in school, right? You need to have a certain path." Now I'm like, "Yo, this kid got talents that I don't have, that a lot of people would kill for, and then
yeah,
I'm basically based in reading, writing, and arithmetic."
mm-hmm,
Right? He's got a whole nother kind of brain
right,
that might be made just for those kinds of things, right? So it's really important what you're saying and how you're honing that for Trey. It's just we have very most of us, and and again, you're like 10 years younger than me, but in general, even culturally,
mm-hmm,
we always have parents say this is the way you need to do it because you need to do better than us.
yeah,
And in their way, a lot of times doing better than us is going to college, is getting
mm-hmm,
that full on education, is being in a corporate position, things like that.
yeah,
That's not for everybody. Like I
mm-mm,
told you before, that shit ain't for me, and that's what I'm stuck in, right? So it kind
yeah,
of it ends up like that. So listen, if we go any further,
Yeah.
All right, before we go any further, I want to do this the right way. So, to the audience, welcome back to the Prosecco Queens podcast, where we keep it real and unfiltered.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm Teresa, storyteller, forever dreamer, and your official Prosecco Queen. So, today it's especially fitting that we have Martin Oliveri here, aka Black the Wave God, aka my primo in law,
Yes.
because it is Valentine's Day. So whether you are in love, healing, building love, or just loving yourself a little louder, today is about what we choose to give our energy to.
Mm-hmm.
So this person sitting right across from me is someone who talks about love in a way that isn't just romantic, it's intentional. Love of craft, love of family, love of growth, love of becoming better. So there's always been this stigma that you can't be an artist and a devoted partner,
Mm-hmm.
that ambition and stability don't coexist or shouldn't coexist.
Yeah.
And you've said yourself, no one believes you can be an artist, father, and a husband, and that's been driving you since day one.
Yeah.
So today we are talking again to Black the Wave God, a New
Yes, sir.
Yorker who made a bold move to build a whole life across state lines,
Yeah.
an artist who refuses to separate his evolution from his music,
Appreciate that.
a man who speaks openly about loyalty, mental health, growth, and what masculinity actually looks like when it matures. So again, Wave God, welcome to Prosecco Queens.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that introduction. That was amazing.
Well, thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for being here. And if you guys would see what behind the scenes looks like, trying to get even the light to look right is crazy here. So luckily he's related, because someone else might have been like, I'm done with this nonsense, right?
It's all good. Shout out our director Gigi.
That's right.
Gigi
She's here in the back.
Productions.
That's right. You know, so it's Valentine's Day. So
Yes.
let's start here. Let's kind of jump back in here. You've talked a lot, and I've, if anybody's ever seen, you're on IG, a lot too, and you talk a lot about breaking the stigma that you can't be an artist, that some people think you can't be an artist and a family man at the same time. So when did you first realize that that narrative existed?
That's kind of been a thing since I've noticed it as a thing since I became an artist. Cause I when I first became an artist, you know, I kind of knew always what I wanted to do, because music just came to me and I was like, oh my God, this thing changes the way I feel, and like, whoa, like what if I can do that for people the same way I'm feeling it? I've felt like that since I was a kid, and it kind of runs through my blood. So I started making music like at a young age. Like I would say I started writing music around 13. But when I started recording music, I had came across a group called IPC, and they're amazing even to this day. Like, you know, I still talk to everybody from the group. I actually just my one man Jay to the truth. He he's like one of the one of the artists in IPC, and he's actually dropping an album soon that I did a single off of. Um, but
Send me the info.
when
We'll put it in the notes.
uh-huh,
We'll put it in the episode notes too.
yeah, for sure, I appreciate that. And you know, I was probably around 15 when I had met them, and he put me in a studio, and he was like, "Yo," because I told him, "Yo, I want to record. I'm an artist." I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew that I wanted to do it. And these guys gave me a chance, even though I had absolutely no idea. I couldn't even stay on beat. But they always gave me a chance. Like they was always like, "Yo, bro." It became like such a thing at some point with IPC. They would call me. Literally, I was in high school at this time, 15 years old. They would call me and be like, "Yo, where are you right now?" And I would be like with friends, or like playing, like literally at that time I was playing football for school. I would be playing football in school, and they'd be like, "Yo, where are you right now? You need to be at the studio right now." So I would be recording music with them, and yeah, I think they had their own style, which was like real Harlem. At that time, Dipset was popping, so they were like they had this Dipset like style.
I like Dipset.
Yeah, I
I
love
always have.
Dipset.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they had that real Dipset style. So I would be watching them, and I'm like, oh, is this how I'm supposed to be? And when I would write music, they would be like, maybe you should say it like this, which is a normal thing if if you got other people that you're doing work with, like you want to hear constructive criticism. But I
Right.
think I was so young that it was kind of like molding me,
Molding you. I was
right,
gonna say,
to
yeah.
be a certain type of artist. And I would see the things that they would talk about, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I should be talking about too. Um, and I think at some point, it was always in my head, like, yo, just be you, you
Yeah,
know?
because the lived experience is different.
Right,
Like they talk about lived experiences, and that's where a lot of music comes from. But yours is a different experience.
right.
You can't talk about things you may not necessarily relate to.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that that was like really important. But like, as far as like being a husband and stuff, I think, um, you know, realizing that there is a stigma of what type of person you're supposed to be an artist. I realized that at like a young age, probably like 15, 16, when I started doing this. But then when I became a husband, you know, I'm like, how will how will people look at me now? Not that I cared about how people would look at me, but it was just a thought, like how would I be viewed as an artist right now? I'm a married man. I have kids. Um, and I wonder how people look at that. And at some point, I realized like maybe that's gonna be a thing that people legit, because like I said, it's stigmatized in hip hop. The way we're portrayed as like womanizing dudes that just and then I thought about like how many artists are like fathers and husbands, most of them, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. For real.
most of them, but I don't see that being like front and center for everybody. And I thought to myself, like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird that we don't have more fathers and husbands out there like talking about these things, talking about being a father. What's the experience
Talking
of
about
being a
real
father?
life, like legit real life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I think that it's important that we have people to do that because we're people. What is the there's no problem with me talking about having a kid and what that did for me, because that might do something for somebody else in the same position
So
you
let
know
me ask you that. Do you think, and this is going to sound maybe dramatic, but it's interesting. Do you think that being a family man almost in the hip hop space is like a form of rebellion? Like doing the opposite of what people say you should be doing, or what they think sells.
hmm. I don't really like, for me, I don't really think like that. Like, I don't even think about things like that, like re, being a rebellious person. I just think, you know, as a father having kids, what I think about is like, what will I leave behind for them? Like, when I'm gone, what can they look back on and be like, yo, like, and when they do look back on those things, will they be like, yo, oh my God, like, this is my dad. Like, I can't believe my dad said things like
Yeah.
this, while there's people out here just talking about like reckless shit and their fathers and, husbands too. And it just sounds crazy. And I think that's what music now means for me, is like, y'all, I want to leave something behind when I'm gone that they could look, because music is forever.
That's right, it
It'll live
is.
forever. So I want to have something that they could look back on and be like, oh my God, bro, that's my dad. Like, that is my dad. And I see like little glimpses of it now. Like when I take my son to school, and his friends, not that long ago, I took my son to school, and his friends from his football team, I was letting them cross the street, and the kid was crossing the street. He's like, yo, what's up, Black the Wave God? which is wild to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause how'd you even find my music? I asked my son too, like, yo, did you just like show them my music? He was like, nah, they just found you, bro. Like, which is crazy to me. But I seen his face when they said that, and he like propped up
Of
and like he
course.
felt good, and I'm like, damn, that's what it's all about to me. That's what I care about. You know, that's really what I care about. Um, that
That's like when Nico says, "My mom has her YouTube channel." I'm like,
yeah,
"Yo, it's kind of like
it feels
it
good.
feels good that your kids
Yeah,
want to prop you up too because they're proud of you."
yeah, yeah,
That's the point.
yeah. That's a big thing for me, man. Like that's really all I care about is like you know
So then, if that's the case, then what do you think, based on what you've learned
mhm
now from coming up all the years ago, where you were kind of trying, they were trying to mold you into maybe being something that you were naturally not,
mhm
to who you are now, what you've learned, and
yeah
still an extremely young man in that sense, right? So, what do you think if you looked at masculinity? What does it look like to you now versus what you thought it was supposed to look like when you started?
um I think I even as a kid, um, as a young man, I seen, I obviously experienced too being like, macho and stuff like that. And I know that that was like,
Cultural.
it felt like, yeah, it felt like it was a
Yep.
thing. But even back then, like the type of person that I was, my friends used to call me like preacher and stuff like that. Cause, that I thought a lot about, I still do. Like
Sounds like me. Mother Teresa was the name.
yeah,
I feel you.
I just think about life and
Yeah.
like things. Like I'm like
Yeah.
really philosophical with shit. And in those days, like I guess we were too young to be thinking about stuff like that. But I would be like, yo, what's what's the actual outcome if we go and we do this wild ass thing that you we're planning to do? Like, what is the outcome? Are you thinking about what can happen after? And these dudes will be like, who cares, bro? Like, what you talking about? And I'm like, oh, so this is not a normal way for me to think, I guess, right? And but I that's just who I was. It was like
It was normal,
in me.
just not to everybody else. To
Yeah,
you, it was normal.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a while I thought it was like weird to think that way, like, oh shit, maybe I should be tough, I should like be, handle things. And um it did give me like a it did give me structure for like don't let people walk all over you, which I think is important. I think it's
Yeah.
important that our kids understand those
Yeah.
type of things because you do get taken advantage of, unfortunately. And my son is exactly like it. I swear, like he's so much like me, down to the things that I used to do as a kid, like taking a bunch of my mom's like products, lotions and toothpastes, and like fucking mixing them around and pretending I was Dexter, like down to stuff like that. My
Texas
son,
Laboratory.
literally, that's I used to be in the bathroom like, yo, I'm about to make a fucking like something. And my son has literally done the same exact
I could
like
see
type of
that with.
thing.
I could see that with him. Yes.
and and I realized, wow, he is so much like myself that sometimes I'm watching him and not to get, I'm preaching. You see, this is why they call me preacher. But when I think about my son, I'm like, yo, don't don't ever treat like him the way you were treated as a kid.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh my God. Yeah.
it makes me realize a lot of things like that when I see the same type of things that I used to do, how he expresses himself and shit. I'm like, yo, the best thing to do would be not so much the same thing my parents may have done, And he's sent even like he's sensitive in certain
Mm-hmm.
ways, just like me and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. He reminds me so much of myself, and I'm just like if I'm being real, bro, I know I'm going left because I know your question was about masculinity now and later. But
This is answering that question.
yeah, I just think like, man, the way I look at life is like all of these things are just shit that we made up.
Yeah.
You know, we made up masculinity. We made up fucking words. Who's to say that
We made up
this?
the patriarchy,
Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
it's all made up. So I don't think about shit like that. I just think that we're all people and we're all different, and we need to be like okay with being different. You
Well,
know.
let me tell you this because um, what the audiences know, we've all known each other about 10 years. That's around the time you came into our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it was very fast and very furious.
It sure was.
One day we're meeting you, the next day we're at your wedding.
Married.
Which, by the way, their anniversary is tomorrow.
Yes.
And Martin is not
Happy
only, you
anniversary.
mentioned,
Love you.
love you, Prima. Not only have we mentioned that my son just officially became your godson,
Which is a
which is
huge
a
honor.
blessing
I appreciate that so much.
in the best way. But you have adopted my goddaughter,
Yeah.
my nephew, and you guys have a beautiful daughter, young baby daughter together.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, you have grown so exponentially.
I appreciate
even that. Not just as a family man, but just as a person, and even what I've seen. So in those 10 years, what's interesting is that there are things that we've hung out hundreds of times probably. Mm-hmm. And we just chilling and talking, and we don't always necessarily get to the gritty of things, right? And so you're like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
I never even thought to ask that question, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting here making questions and thinking about things I wanted to ask you, me and Gina talk probably a lot more than we probably should, to be honest with you. Enough going through some of the stuff that we've gone through with relationships and marriages and the men we choose to keep in our company, apparently. And we realize how so much of the music you put out is not just your personality, but it shows how you love out loud. Mm-hmm. I didn't think of that term until Gina had said it to me. And how you love our cousin,
yeah,
our prima hermana, so beautifully and out loud. And when like when I say Fast and Furious, like all of a sudden one day it was like, oh, Lisa's dating this guy. And for us, it felt like that, right? Lisa's dating this guy. Oh, he's moving out here. They're getting married. We're like, damn. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fine. Right. Cool. We're going to be there. We're going to support. That's what we do. Right.
Yeah.
And you have even used your music as a way to speak like a love letter. Mm-hmm. To her and to what you have built together. Yeah. And I know one of the songs that we talk about, and I'm going to put a bunch of music and links and stuff in the show notes, or to go to the episode notes. And we will put some clips of songs in here. I told you that as well. Mm-hmm. But one of the ones we talked about is For You. Yeah. Because I had to even ask you the name of it, because in my head, it's just might as well be For Lisette. Yeah. Right? And it is just a beautiful love letter.
I appreciate that.
To your wife and to your relationship and to the family you've built. And it's not that you don't hear rappers or singers writing love songs or writing to this person. And maybe it hits different because I used to babysit her. She's one of my sisters, right? Yeah. But the fact that there are still men out there who are not just on their own healing journeys, mm-hmm. but are able to and be proud to put that love for their family and their wife out there. Yeah. So there's never any question about, baby, you're it for me, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So tell me about For You. Tell me about, I think I know the inspiration, but when you were writing it, when you were recording it, what did Lisa, I haven't actually said what she said about it.
Yeah, I think you should definitely have her on at some point. I would love to hear her actual feelings about the song.
And if nobody else believe, yeah, is you down for me? Would you die for me? And if nobody else believe, would you try for me? Promise I'll ride for you. You heard I die for you. They try to hurt you when I let them bullets fly for you. Is you down for me? Would you die for me? And if nobody else believe, would you try for me? Promise I ride for you. You heard I die for you. They try to hurt you when I let them bullets fly for you. I give you my heart, you give me kids back. I think it's only fair, the word is what I give back. Said I'ma be a star, you told me big facts. You want a fairy tale, then we gon' live that. You keep me center when I'm off balance. I look at you, I feel no malice. And you was there when I was down, picking up the baggage. Streets calling, but you here, so the voice vanished. Girl, you the one and you know it. Like what I did to deserve you in this moment. And how'd you manage to fix what was so broken? And how'd you manage to love me with no motive?
Um, music. When I make music, I don't think about the concept I'm going for at all. Like
I feel you in that sector when I'm writing my poetry and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just like I feel like it comes from like I feel like being it sounds crazy, you know, but I feel like being when you're an artist, that creative side that you have, it's like streaming down
Yeah.
directly from God.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's I can't explain it, but when I make music, it just falls out of the sky into my head and I just like put it down. And there's times, you know, not every song comes out a hit, which is fine. But there are times where like when I get the idea, like when it just falls into my head, I'm like, oh shit, like this is gonna be something huge. And I'm not thinking in the sense of like, oh, like this shit's gonna reach millions of people. I'm thinking like, oh my God, when somebody hears this, like they are gonna feel that's what I care about is like making people feel things. And when I was in the middle of writing that song, it, I'm not afraid to say it. I don't care. I was crying, bro. Like legit sobbing. Like as I'm writing the words out, I'm like, I can't even believe I'm able to put this together into like formal thoughts. But I think when I speak, especially when I'm trying to communicate with people, um, I think I just do it better when I make music. Like I communicate it way better through a song, which is something I really like. It's great, but I also have to work on it. Like it's one of the things I'm currently working on. Like when I speak to people, you know, I want to be able to make it as beautiful as when I'm making a song. To be able to speak to you and my wife and you know really get things across. But man, that was probably one of the I still like it's very hard for me to listen to like the song start playing I'm like I'm fighting tears right now. I'm trying not to cry. Ashley said literally like she be fine in the car and she look over at me, she like you okay? I'm like I think so. I just like this is really like it's just one of those songs that I wrote that really just came from every fiber of my being like and she made it really easy. Honestly, she makes it really easy to love her because she's amazing. Honestly, in every way possible. Um, she she just cares so much, and like I I can't even describe to you. Like I can't put into words. And that's why I made the song. That's why I made the song. But it's hard to put into words. Like the amount of love that I feel for her. And I think when you have this person and you get for men, um, for me personally, when I got to a certain point in my life, which was quite recent, I realized like it, I knew from the rip when me and Lisette first got together, I'm like, we like I knew when I laid eyes on her, I was like, God, I'm gonna marry her. I swear to God. Like if my sister showed that we met through my sister, best friends. My sister was like, "Yo, you know, you guys got the same birthday." I said, "Oh, bro, you cannot show me her. What? Oh my God, she is so gorgeous. Like I would marry her tomorrow. Like, and which is funny because I married her like a few months later.
Few months later.
You
Few
know,
months later. We were
But
at the engagement party and everything.
yeah, I think I just knew, like, as soon as I seen her, I was like, that is like literally the woman I've been dreaming of. And then when we finally met each other, it was like electric, like, oh my God, this is literally the person I'm gonna spend the rest of my life. I literally felt like that. I did. I felt like that. I don't know if she did, but I was like, this is 100% the person I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with. And it even got to a point, because at that time I was still living in New York, where we would, when we would set, like, leave each other, like, I felt mad emotional. Like, why am I feeling like my life is spinning out of control right now?
Mm.
Like, what is going on? I had, like, I'm not even lying to you guys, and I don't care. Like, I don't give, but I would legit be trying to go to sleep, and I would be having panic attacks. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening to me? I don't know what
Like
any of this
separation
means.
anxiety.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I was just like
You
so
know what that
crazy
seems?
about
It
her.
sounds like, what do they call it? Soul recognition, soul type recognition.
I think there is a lot of that. I
Yeah.
think there is a lot of, like, I don't know. I think I just before
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
and
Because can I say what you're doing and what you've been doing with Lisette, with your family, with raising children differently than we were? You're breaking generational traumas
mm-hmm.
and curses.
Yeah.
And the way we were taught of love, or
Mm.
what love is supposed to be, not only are you building it differently for yourself and your family, you're building your relationship differently, which, may I say, affects every bit of artistry that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of people think that you have to, in order to make yourself do better as an artist, or in whatever sector you are an artist, you have to always dig deep into the worst parts of yourself.
Yeah.
And at moments, that's correct.
Right.
I know with my writing, when I was going through some of the darkest moments of my life, yes, some of the best stuff came out because it was stuff that I couldn't verbalize any other way but in my writing.
Right.
If I tried to talk it, it was too hard to even get the words sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but it would flow out onto the paper.
Right.
Right? But when you're in a position where your life changes and you are now in a position to say, holy shit, I don't have or don't feel those deep recesses much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that gives you a whole other way to express it.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been doing. Doesn't mean that you haven't, that you don't still have demons that you fight. We're all human, or fears, or, and by the way, having a family brings up a whole nother set of fears you wouldn't even know that you had unless you have it, right? And I feel like the way you're able to express it is not necessarily unique, but it's really breaking that stigma, breaking those trauma responses that we have, breaking trauma bonds. Because we have so many trauma bonds, we don't realize that, you know, we create and that we're brought up to. So when you say that she, you know, you have like panic attacks and stuff, it's because your soul was recognizing something in her that you needed for your healing as well, as well as her healing, right? Because I know for a fact we've had this discussion before, you know, about us having, you know, rough childhoods. You didn't have the easiest of childhoods either, of course, right? But being able then to take your mental health seriously, having someone who makes you see other parts of you that make it worth healing. So tell me about that. Like, when did you start taking your mental health seriously? Was it before? Was it, you know, when you and Lisa started dating? Was it just after, when you realized, holy shit, in order to maintain, in order to be better for my family, I need to do better for myself?
That is a lot of it right there. That's like 90% of it. Was definitely that. But I think it. I didn't. It where I come from. Mental health is kind of like a. It's all in your head type thing. Like, you
Yeah.
have complete and utter control of
That's right.
how, like, how you feel, which is also true. When I do like a full circle and I'm like, okay, I'm acknowledging that mental health is a real thing. I'm, you know, now I'm deciding to take this shit serious, and I have to really figure these things out because I have kids that need me. I have a wife that needs me to be fucking mentally coherent to be able to, you know, be a family. When I come full circle back around, I'm like, I realize that it a lot of that is true. You're in control overall of how you choose to feel about certain things, whether it be like that was really terrible. I tend to find that you know pain is honestly a vehicle for growth. Um,
It can be for sure if
yeah,
you use it
if you
that
choose
way.
for
Yeah.
it to be that way,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think when you're on a journey, you get to a point where you kind of realize that, because then you see all these like little pieces of things falling into certain places and then creating these bigger pictures. And I think a lot of that was happening around me for a really long time. I really truly believe that, like, I'm honestly protected by God, because
Amen.
I don't even know how I got here sometimes, I don't know how I got here sometimes. I don't know how I ended up in the positions that I ended up, because I really don't feel like I did all of these things to get here. I just feel like I was placed here. Um,
Well, then, in that sense, what do you think you had to unlearn?
that
Because
is
that is a
also,
huge thing with men, is
yeah.
that you get to a certain age and men will say, and again, I know from a lot of experience, women, not like women are perfect, but we are more likely to admit
Mm-hmm.
when we need help. We are more likely to get help. We are more likely to say, I have to do this for my family.
Yeah.
Generationally, culturally, men are less likely to do that. And what they do is they bring that trauma into every relationship.
100%.
They destroy everything by self-sabotaging. And then they go, well, I'm in my 40s. I don't know why I'm still single, or why I can't have a relationship, or those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So growing up with, again, culturally, we understand it as well, because even as females, it was like there was no such thing as therapy. That was none of those things. Like, you didn't tell your business to anybody outside of the household, right? So it was like, for us to be able to then finally say as adults, I got the insurance. Something is wrong. I'm going to get therapy. I'm going to get the help I need, right? Because I realize my faults in a lot of things, and how do I handle life. So for you, what do you think you had to unlearn? Could be one thing, could be 12 things, right?
Yeah.
In order to help make you the man that you're still growing and healing into.
Everything. Especially when you come from where I come from, there's a survival way of living and just thinking. And when you get into a relationship with a person that you know for a fact, like, there's no question, you like, yo, I'm definitely gonna spend the rest of my life with this person. I need all my people to understand, when you have a woman that challenges the way you think,
Preach, just preach. Keep going. Keep
um
going.
that means that that person was placed in front of you to make you better. Like, it's just that simple. It's just, and you know me and Lisette are amazing. To me, we're the greatest couple in the world. I don't care what nobody say, but we have like our problems like everybody else. And but honestly, when we have any type of disagreement at this point in my life, not maybe not before, because I don't think I had the capacity to process and problem solve and really do like the self-reflection, um to understand even myself. But there we have conversations sometimes, and it's like, yo, I think you really need to, like, these are problems, and I really think you need to sit down with yourself and really think about these things. And in the moment, you might feel attacked. You might feel like, yo, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
But I promise you, if you just take 1 second in silence and give yourself like just clarity, like just get away from all thoughts, like just clear your mind completely. Sit in silence. I promise you this works. Um your mind starts to autoplay the thing,
Reflection.
and you're so literally self-reflecting, but you doing it from outside of yourself. Because I think what we, even for men mostly, is that we the biggest one of the biggest mistakes we make is not recognizing that ego is a tool that is mostly like misused. A lot of people say like get rid of the ego. You should have no ego. That's not true. It's a tool. Because then if you didn't have that, you would have people walking all over you. But I think it's a tool that we misuse, especially in relationships, and I think it could be like so damaging and really like ruin relationships. But yeah, if you give yourself that time to sit down in silence, like it's plain. Like I literally see it like a movie. Like I see her presenting this thing to me. And when I think about it, these days I live a lot like I hold myself accountable to everything, even things that are out of my control, because when you do that, you don't give other people power over you, right? Nobody is in control of how you feel about anything. So I tend to hold myself to the best of my ability. I tend to hold myself accountable for everything. So having that mindset when I sit down and when I'm thinking about the things that I'm being told about myself, I'm like, she's right. I should be digging down deep and fixing all of these problems about myself. That really is a problem. Why do I react like that? And my biggest problem at this time of my life, I guess, is not seeing those things right away and being like, yo, you are absolutely right. Because there's times where, I'm like, I get defensive. I'm like, well, what you mean? I'm like, what you mean? Like, but then when I sit back and I think about it, I'm like, that's right. When I stop being like, when my ego, I'm not using it in this moment, and I think about what all of this whole shit means, it's really as simple as this person was placed in front of me, yes, because she is the love of my life.
And she's your mirror.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's crazy about ego, about female ego, male ego, whatever it is, we run from our own reflections. Because, you can run from your own reflection, but you cannot run from someone else's perception, right? Yeah. And the reality is, like, you could be looking at how many people they say, oh, you can't even look at yourself in the mirror. Yeah. And it's because for a fact, somewhere in there, you don't feel fully aware. You don't hold yourself fully accountable. You still blame your past on your present. There comes a point in time in every adult's life where you can't blame your childhood anymore, right? You can't be like, yeah, I had a fucked up childhood. Great, that most of us did, and some of us had worse than others, and so on and so forth. But the reality is, you can't be 30s, 40s, 50s still going, well, my mother didn't treat me right, my father beat on me, whatever the case may be.
That is true.
And having your ego is kind of edging God out, right? So it's saying, okay, I'm better. I don't need all this. It's about me, right? And so many, and again, I'm gonna say it more than anything else, because I think men also are afraid to admit it out loud, that ego, you need to have an ego death, right? Because you're right. It can be a tool if used properly, but it needs to be a tool in healing, as opposed to a tool in way to be self-sabotaging, right? And so many, and I'll say a bunch of us as well. Listen, there's been many a time I've done it too, where I'm like, I've been through so much fucked up stuff and messed up relationships that I'd be like, if someone is nice to me, the first thing I'm doing is running the opposite direction, because I'm like, nah, that's not real, right? Because in my head, I'm like, that's not even possible for someone to be genuine, right? Because when you don't hold yourself accountable, when you don't see other people holding themselves accountable and going through the process of healing, and which healing doesn't end. Healing is consistent. It's a journey through your life.
Right.
And just when you think you got it, some other shit comes along that you got to work through that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things that we've actually talked about before is that you're a proponent, and you're, other than Trey, you got a lot of women around you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a proponent of being a women's supporter. What does that mean to you exactly? Like for you personally?
I think it goes beyond. I think it goes beyond posting a picture or a video. I think, Lisette actually, I mean, she taught me like mostly how to be a good partner, mostly everything, honestly, aside from having